right. So to get started, first question is if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, pronouns, major, and talk about what you guys have been involved in at Gonzaga.
I'm Elango. Pronouns are she, her. I am a biology major with a soc minor, and I have been involved with GSBA since second semester freshman year. I'm also a member of BSU. Yeah.
I'm Taylor. My pronouns are she, her. I study sociology and communication studies along with social justice and solidarity. At Gonzaga, I have been involved with a few things. My favorite building at campus is Hemmingson because it has everything that I love in it. So not only does it hold the beloved CSI where I've worked for 3 years, first 2 years as Spike Nights and then GSBA this year, but also CCE and service has been important to me over my time at Gonzaga. So I spent a lot of time doing CCE programs, along with I spent a lot of time in the Mishman office, involved in like intervarsity or search retreats. So those are some of the things that I love at Gonzaga and do. Let's go, Zach.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the second question now. So this is a little bit more about you all specifically. Why did you all choose to run for president, vice president? And then also, what experiences uniquely qualify you two as serving these positions?
We chose to run because we genuinely care a lot about the university, and we'll kind of dive into like our personal experiences throughout this little chat situation. But I chose to run for president because in being in GSBA for the past couple of years, I've grown to like see it work really well and see it work like not as well as it could. And the opportunity to get to serve in that capacity like excites me and also kind of scares me. So giving myself the opportunity to kind of like learn and grow with Taylor as well. I don't think I'd do it if I wasn't doing it with Taylor. I'm really lucky that we have signed on to do this together. In terms of experiences, my freshman year, I was lucky enough to get to be an elections commissioner. So I got to see kind of what the student body wanted to see in terms of like what they were voting for and what initiatives they wanted to see on campus. So that I think that's useful, and kind of being someone who oversees an organization and kind of like is in charge of being a mediator between conversations between admin and GSBA members and exec staff and Senate, relaying information. And then for the past 2 years, I've gotten to be director of diversity inclusion, and that has absolutely filled my cup. I absolutely love social justice and diversity and inclusion, and especially the inclusion part, because I think that one of our kind of founding like words that we're using is community, and I kind of see that embodied in the work that I got to do for the past 2 years, and I want to really carry that over to president and make sure that we're working on initiatives and projects that really serve the whole student body and not just a few. So that's why I'm running with Taylor.
Similarly to Fese, I think vice president, like Fese said, the positions we're running for, I think they're both comfortable and uncomfortable. Comfortable in the ways that like we've had some experience in GSBA. I was the director of campus events this year, and that's been a really cool place for me to grow and like find my student voice. And GSBA has meant a lot to me this year. It's been a community of people that I've loved to get to know, along with people that support me, advisors, like things like that. So I've loved being a part of GSBA, and I want to continue that. But I think it's like scary to run, but also really exciting. I think vice president is a role that really suits best to my character. It's highly relational and is trying to like, I don't know, I just think something that I like is people a lot. And so as vice president, it'd be a really cool way to just build that community and establish it as a really strong point. And I don't know, I feel like with what Fese said is I think as two women, it would be really cool to get the chance to like run and be in office next year together. And I feel really supported with my teammate like Fese. So yeah, that's why I chose to run.
Thank you so much. For the third question, we're more curious about your specific platform, what is unique about it, and being, if you were to be president, vice president, what is something that you value most in your leadership that the student body should be aware of?
So we kind of have 3 like main values that we're taking with us and what we'd like to do and how we'd like to lead next year if we get the chance to. And they'd be kind of these things that we could come back to and fall on to keep us grounded in our work and what we're doing. First is community. I think like as vice president, it'd be really cool to just build a strong GSBA community, because we work better as a whole university. If like GSBA is strong, we can do more work and like get and accomplish more things, along with just feel more supported by one another. The GSBA community is something I found myself like loving this year. I went abroad spring semester of last year, and I came back and wanted to try something new and took a shot with GSBA, and it's been like such a cool place of growth for me, along with just feeling like I can use my voice. And sitting on cabinet this year was a really cool way that I felt stronger and more confident in the things that I had to say. And so just establishing this community where people feel welcome to use their voice is something that I think we really want to focus on next year within just GSBA, but also connecting GSBA to the community at large is super important too.
And then going along with those points, just thinking about our involvements inside and outside of GSBA, and just working on kind of bridging the gap between GSBA and the greater Gonzaga community, and then the community outside of Gonzaga, because I think that a lot of times like Gonzaga students kind of exist within a bubble, but kind of I think from Gonzaga to outside of Gonzaga, but also like between their exclusive like or their like individual Gonzaga groups, and kind of trying to like eradicate those bubbles and kind of pushing people towards like and getting involved with different activities, and like seeing ways in which like GSBA can support that and create those opportunities for them. But also it'd be cool next year to be able to bridge the gap between academics and extracurriculars, because during the town hall last year, we saw that there's a lot of kind of disconnect between some of the goals of academics and some of the goals of extracurriculars, and a lot of times they butt heads, but they could be working really cohesively. So kind of trying to facilitate those conversations with administration and student groups to see how we could better kind of collaborate and move forward and build community inside and outside of the classroom spaces. And then moving on with compassion. Compassion is our second kind of guiding principle, and that kind of manifests itself through listening to each other, kind of in our conversations on how we can better support GSBA, and listening to the words of GSBA members and exec staff and senators, but also listening and holding ourselves accountable to receiving feedback from people who aren't in GSBA or administration and staff and faculty on how GSBA could better support different areas on campus, and then advocating, because I think that's a big part of what Pres and VP do, is advocating for students who don't commonly have spaces on this campus, or organizations that want kind of more support in order to kind of feed in with their personal mission statements per the organizations, and how that ties to GSBA's mission statements. And then also just like meeting people where they're at. I think that's something that we're really big about, is kind of just like seeing people where people are at. And it's kind of unfortunate that we don't get to campaign, I think, in person, because that was going to be a big part of it. But like given the circumstances this week and the past couple of weeks, super understandable, but kind of trying to just be there for people and like be open to meeting people kind of face to face where they're at if given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. I similar with Fese in terms of compassion. I think just listening to the voices that are commonly forgotten and the ones that aren't heard, and trying to like seek those out and listen to them, and then also just holding each other with grace, I think is important. Just making sure we're respecting each other and boundaries, and making sure we can best support one another with voicing what we need, and how we can help and use our resources for each other. Our third guiding point and principle is courage. And so Fese and I both kind of talked about in the previous question that it's kind of like courageous and bold of us to like run and like, yeah, there's nerds there too, but we're super excited for this position. And so encouraging Zags to do things that make them uncomfortable, and try new areas of like the university or extracurriculars, or just be involved with different things. I know for me, it's been a really cool experience being at Gonzaga, because I've gotten to fail a ton and try things and not be good at them, or try things and love them and like be passionate towards them. And so just encouraging students to find things that they're passionate about and really use their voice, and also like ways that we can support them in doing so in next year and what that looks like.
So our last question is to ask you about specific goals that you might have. So as you guys know, Michael this year set the goal to endow the Undocumented Student Scholarship and the Undergraduate Professional Development Grant. So what specific initiatives will you seek to actualize in your presidency and vice presidency?
In terms of that question, I think continuing the work that Michael did in the Undocumented Student Scholarship and Undergraduate Professional Development Grant, especially the grant, just making sure, both of those, but making sure we're still getting funding and also students know about it. And like, I think people don't talk a lot about like the fact that students on campus do struggle financially, and there's people who need that support and need, like, we should be able to make sure that's accessible for students and also support them in that way. So making sure we're still getting funding for that and students are aware of that is super important. And just closing that margin, I think is something we really want to devote next year and invest in that. So.
And in terms of new initiatives, kind of working towards addressing food security on campus, there are student organizations like Gonzaga Against Poverty, and in collaboration with Campus Kitchens, and hopefully Sodexo, kind of working towards maybe creating a food swipe bank for students who don't have access to food, because I feel like a lot of food on campus goes to waste. So trying to be like be knowledgeable on the fact that not everyone has easy access to food, and how that's a way that we could be better serving our ZAGs, and then trying to collaborate with organizations that are already doing so. And then thinking about international students and trying to collaborate with student-run organizations like ISU, more so than just providing funding for the ISU banquet at the beginning of second semester, but kind of supporting them continuously throughout the year and making sure that their needs are met, because I think that the international student population isn't commonly included, or there are ways that GSBA or Gonzaga could serve them better as a whole, and kind of getting in touch with ISU and CGE and working on better increasing communications and programming to kind of support those students as well. And then just as a whole, trying to make sure GSBA works more efficiently, because I think a lot of the times we, in individual departments, folks get kind of so like tunnel visioned into their own missions and their goals, but the collaboration kind of falters. So trying to pick that up and then kind of spreading that to outside of GSBA and working on having cohesive collaborations with other university organizations like DICE and CCE, and seeing how like folks that are doing the same type of programming around diversity, inclusion, or other topics on our campus could be working together to kind of provide bigger and more efficient experiences for students.